3 true Craigslist horror stories. If you've ever used Craigslist to buy or sell something, you already know it can get weird. But sometimes, weird turns into something much darker. These are 3 true Craigslist stories that people shared online, and they're disturbing enough that you might think twice before answering the next listing you see. Let's get into it. Story 1. Anonymous. Back when I was in college, I found a Craigslist ad selling a car way cheaper than it should have been. It was a 2015 Honda Civic for $2,000. That alone should have been suspicious. But the seller claimed they were moving out of state and needed to sell it fast, so I contacted them. They told me to meet in a grocery store parking lot around 8 p.m. When I got there, the car was already parked near the back of the lot, but no one was inside. A minute later, a guy walked up from behind the building. He handed me the keys and said I could start the car. It ran perfectly. But when I asked about the title and paperwork, he said something weird. He told me the paperwork was inside the trunk, so I walked around the car and opened it. Inside the trunk, there was nothing except a large black duffel bag. That was it. No paperwork, no tools, nothing. I turned around to ask him about it, and the guy was suddenly standing way closer than before, like right behind me. He said, "Go ahead, open the bag." Something about the way he said it felt incredibly wrong. So instead, I shut the trunk and told him I wasn't interested anymore. His expression immediately changed. The friendly smile disappeared, and he just stared at me. I got back in my car and drove away. A few days later, I saw a news article about a car being abandoned nearby with a body found inside the trunk. Same make, same color, same exact model. To this day, I'm convinced it was the same car, and I don't want to know what was inside that duffel bag. Story 2. The basement job. A few years ago, I was trying to pick up extra money on the weekends. My normal job didn't pay much, so I would sometimes scroll through the Craigslist gig section looking for quick work. Most of the listings were normal: moving help, cleaning jobs, yard work, but one post caught my attention. It said, $250 cash. Need help clearing out basement tonight. The description was short. Just a few sentences saying an older house had a lot of junk that needed to be carried out. It also said the job would only take a few hours. $250 for a couple hours of work sounded great. So I messaged the listing. About 10 minutes later, someone responded and gave me an address about 20 minutes away. They told me to come around 8:30 that night. When I arrived, the house looked old. It sat at the end of a quiet street surrounded by tall trees. Only one light was on inside. When I knocked, the door opened almost immediately. The man standing there looked to be in his 50s, thin, pale, quiet. He asked if I was there for the basement job. I said yes. He stepped aside and let me in. The inside of the house smelled old, like dust and damp wood. He led me down a narrow hallway to a door near the back of the house. "That's the basement," he said. He flipped on the light and pointed down the stairs. "Just bring the boxes up and leave them in the kitchen." Then he walked back toward the front of the house. I remember thinking it was a little strange that he wasn't helping, but I figured maybe he had a bad back or something. So I went downstairs. The basement was packed with old boxes, broken furniture, and random junk. It looked like years of stuff had just piled up. I started carrying boxes upstairs one by one. After about 15 minutes, I had already moved a decent amount. That's when I heard it. At first it was faint, almost like a quiet groan. I stopped moving and listened. A few seconds later, I heard it again, this time clearer. Someone moaning, like they were in pain. I stood completely still, trying to figure out where the sound was coming from. Then I heard a voice, weak, barely loud enough to understand. It said, "Help." My heart immediately started racing. The voice seemed to be coming from the far side of the basement, behind a stack of old shelves. Slowly, I walked toward it. The closer I got, the clearer the sound became. Someone was definitely back there, still groaning, still whispering. Please, help. I pushed one of the shelves slightly and looked behind it, but there was nothing there, just a concrete wall. Then I realized something. The voice wasn't behind the shelves. It was coming from inside the wall. Before I could even process that, I heard something upstairs. Footsteps. Slow footsteps moving across the kitchen floor. Then suddenly, the basement light shut off. Everything went completely dark. My heart was pounding. Then I heard his voice from the top of the stairs, calm, almost annoyed. You weren't supposed to hear that. I turned toward the stairs. The man was standing there, blocking the only way out, and in his hand was a knife. For a second, my brain completely froze. Then pure adrenaline kicked in. I looked around the basement desperately for another way out. That's when I saw it. A small window near the ceiling on the far wall. I ran toward it. Behind me, I heard the man start moving down the stairs, fast. The window was old and covered with grime. I knew I didn't have time to open it normally, so I ripped off my jacket and wrapped it around my hand. Then I slammed my fist through the glass. The window shattered. I shoved the remaining pieces aside and pulled myself through. I landed hard in the backyard and scrambled to my feet. Behind me, I could hear the basement door slam open inside the house. I didn't even look back. I just ran. Across the yard, through the side gate, straight to my car. I drove away as fast as I could. The next day, I checked Craigslist. The job listing was gone, completely deleted. But the thing that still bothers me the most was the voice in that basement, because whoever it belonged to was still inside that wall when I left. Story 3. The late night buyer. I once sold a gaming console on Craigslist. It was an older console and I listed it for about $100. Within an hour, someone messaged me asking if they could buy it that night, and they seemed really eager, almost too eager, but I figured they just wanted it quickly. We agreed to meet in the parking lot of a convenience store around 9 p.m. When I arrived, the parking lot was mostly empty. After about 5 minutes, a car pulled in and parked a few spaces away. But the person inside didn't get out. Instead, they just sat there. Finally, my phone buzzed. It was the buyer. They said, "I'm here. Come to the car." That already felt weird. Normally, people meet outside the car, but I walked over anyway. When I got close enough to see inside, I noticed there were 2 people in the car. The driver rolled down the window slightly. He asked to see the console, so I held it up. Then he asked something strange. He said, "Did you come alone?" I said yes. The 2 people looked at each other for a moment. Then the passenger opened the door and stepped out. But instead of walking toward me, he walked behind me, like he was positioning himself. My stomach immediately dropped. I quickly stepped back and said I changed my mind about selling it. The driver suddenly got angry. He started telling me to stop being weird and just sell it. But I was already backing away toward the store entrance. When I got inside the store, I looked back outside. The 2 guys got back into their car and drove away. Later that night, I checked the messages again. The account that contacted me had already been deleted. After that, I never met Craigslist buyers anywhere except inside busy places, because that night it really felt like I almost walked straight into something bad.